It's Mock Draft Monday, folks. And this time we're doing a Superflex draft starting right now on the Razzball Fantasy Football Podcast. Welcome back, folks, to another episode of the Razzball Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Bobby Lamarco. Today it's another Mock Draft Monday, and today we're doing a half-PPR Superflex mock draft. Does that make Josh Allen a lock for 1.01? I'll be joined in a moment to talk to my boy Sky Gawasco about his thoughts on Superflex. Before we do, make sure you're following us across the board at Razzball Fantasy on YouTube and also on IG and TikTok at Razzball Fantasy as well. But also make sure you go to our flagship, Razzball.com. By the way, not only are we crushing it on the baseball side, we have basketball, hockey, and of course, football. Make sure you're using all the tools. We have a trade analyzer. We also have a team name generator. We have an ADP tool. We got it all over on Razzball.com. And check out all the great new writers and the guys we've had for years on Razzball.com. Bringing in my boy today, Sky Gawasco. What's up, co-host? You can find Sky Gawasco at Sky Gawasco on Twitter. Talk to us, Sky. How you doing?
What up, everybody? Great to be back. I'm finally back in my studio, man. It's been weeks. I've had life events. I've been traveling. I'm doing this and that and about, and I'm finally back home in the studio with the two Hall of Famers behind me, Double Evans. I'm very excited. Yo, man, the Razz Bowl is underway, Bob.
Woo!
Super stoked. I'm already a couple picks in. Our league is rolling. We got a group chat, very interactive. I've got 3 picks in already. I went with Austin Eckler, somehow fell to 6. I'm going to take that in best ball. I went with Deebo Samuel and Mike Evans, and I'll be on the clock again soon for pick number 4. I'm really excited, man. The first real draft for me this entire offseason.
I got Mike Evans in the 3rd round, too. I actually took him. Believe it or not, Javonte Williams fell to the 3rd. I was sitting there looking at Javonte, and I just remember our conversation about Mike Evans. I already had James Conner and Austin Eckler. So my draft was Austin Eckler, James Conner, and Mike Evans. So we're like 2 peas in a pot. So this is good.
Yeah, 2 for 3. I like it. 2 for 3. Nice.
So today we're doing a Superflex mock draft for the people. Let's talk a little bit. My first blatant question I'm going to have to ask you. What is the difference? What do you do differently in your drafts when it's a Superflex versus a regular draft with just a regular flex spot and maybe a couple wide receivers and running backs?
Yeah, for anybody that's used to Superflexers played before, the obvious answer is you pick quarterbacks early. For anyone that's unfamiliar with the Superflex method, or maybe last year you wanted to try one but you didn't, this is maybe your first summer getting into a Superflex draft. The main difference is you are allowed to take a quarterback as a flex position, meaning every single team pretty much in your league is going to be playing 2 quarterbacks per week. So roster-wise, you're going to have at least 2, probably 3, maybe even 4 quarterbacks in your league, right? So 12 times 4, 48. You're going to start having some backups on there just in case. Maybe a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo is not on a team yet necessarily if he gets traded, right? So it's obviously quarterback early, man, but the differential in points per week that a quarterback gives you is substantial. So it's going to be quarterback early and often, but I will say this. I'm not telling you to punt quarterback in Superflex. But if you say you have the 10th, 11th, 12th pick in a 12-team draft, and the first 10 picks are quarterbacks, you look at a Christian Dalvin Cook, those top guys fall to you in a Superflex draft. So maybe you get 2 super studs at other positions, right? And then you pick a quarterback, a late round, middle round guy like a Derek Carr or a Tua, Matt Ryan, somebody like that as your quarterbacks later on. But the other positions are absolutely stacked. So don't force it, but you're going to be looking quarterback early.
Yeah, I agree. So in this draft already, we kind of already started up. So let's get into it a little bit. We are drafting from the 7th spot. It is half PPR. And as a reminder, once again, it's Superflex. Sky, you drummed it up already for the people. We already kind of gone through. So talk a little bit about the first couple picks and what you're thinking for our first pick at 7.
Yeah, you got it. So if you checked out our episode last week, which I recommend you do, it was a PPR single quarterback league, full PPR, and Bob and I went through it. We generate here on Fantasy Pros with the Draft Wizard. They're not a sponsor. We just like the layout of this, and we can do it pretty quickly for faster episodes. But basically, we can do all the customizations, right? Last week, we were the number 2 pick in a single quarterback league. We went with Christian McCaffrey and so on. This week, we did a randomization again out of 12 teams. We're actually the 7th pick now. So as you can see up here, YouTubers, you can see on the draft board that I've pulled up, and podcasters will roll through it with you real quick. The question of the day, Bob brought it in early. Is Josh Allen a lock at 101 in a Superflex? He is. 101 Josh Allen, but then Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler, Dalvin Cook. I think that's kind of surprising, Bob. I'd like to get your thoughts on that. Usually you see 2, 3, 4 quarterbacks in the first 5 picks. We only had 2 in the first 6 with Patrick Mahomes. We're on the clock right now. My boy is on the clock. Justin Herbert, spoiler alert, is my number 1 quarterback right now heading into the season. This is a no-brainer for me. How you feeling?
I agree. I actually think this is actually surprising. You're not going to see this probably in most super flex leagues, but Justin Herbert is the slam dunk. He's one of those guys. Number one, we talk about this a lot of times, but second year into his scheme is the biggest jump point for a lot of passing games. He's got Mike Williams, Josh Palmer going into his second season, Keenan Allen, Gerald Everett now, Austin Eckler at the backfield, an offensive line that could be pushing the top 10. I'd agree with you that he might be the 101. Last year, he showed that he's legit. Plus, this offense throws an insane amount. He was second in the NFL in pass attempts last year. So I love it. I'm all in here. I think Justin Herbert is a no-brainer at this pick.
I agree. I'm going to pick him in just 1 second. One feature that I love on the Draft Wizard. Again, this is a free app you can check out for your mock drafts as well. The pick predictor here, Bob. What this tells us is before our next pick, the computer is generating all the ADP that it's working with and predicting who of the quarterbacks will be picked before our next pick. Justin Herbert and Lamar Jackson will be picked before our next one at 94%. Kyler, 58%. Jalen Hurts, 52%, right? So if we don't get a quarterback right now, we're probably looking at Joe Burrow, Tom Brady, Russell Wilson as our QB1. So we're going to go upper echelon here and go with Justin Herbert. So Cooper Kupp, Derrick Henry. Let's see here. Sorry about that. Let me run it off real quick. Just the first couple rounds we'll do, and then we'll blast through the rest of them here. So it looks like we have Cooper Kupp, Derrick Henry, Justin Jefferson, Lamar Jackson. So again, in the first round, only 4 quarterbacks. That's really surprising to me, Bob. You usually see 5, 6, 7 quarterbacks go in the first round, but only 4 here with Allen, Mahomes, Herbert, and Jackson. Jamar Chase goes after that. Devontae Adams, Najee Harris, Deebo Samuel, Jalen Hurts, and Joe Burrow go back to back. We're on the clock here. So this is where it gets interesting in Superflex. Do we go with another high-profile quarterback and lock the position and go running back, wide receiver the rest of the draft, or do we look at who's left? Joe Mixon, DeAndre Swift, Aaron Jones. We're also looking at Stephon Diggs, CeeDee Lamb, Mike Evans, Tyreek Hill. So, and obviously Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews still around too. So a lot of great picks here, Bob. Do you want to go double quarterback and lock it up, or do you want to look at another position?
Well, scroll down a little bit. I just want to see. We got Kyler Murray right there. I personally, we've talked to us like Trey Lance is one of our guys. We potentially probably could get Trey Lance in the 3rd round. That might be a little early, but Kyler Murray to me seems like one of those guys too that is a dual threat quarterback in a system that he's very comfortable with. He has plenty of weapons, even with DeAndre Hopkins out the first 6 weeks. They got Marquise Hollywood Brown. The only problem I have is I am obsessed with DeAndre Swift. And I know he's available right now. Maybe because it's half PPR, I actually would not mind going Kyler Murray here. But Swift would be my running back pick of that group without a doubt. I love Swift. But I think outside of that, it's either Kyler Murray or going to be Swift for me. What about you, Sky?
Yeah, it's okay. I'm also liking Joe Mixon, man, behind that, better offensive line this year. I mean, he could lead the league in rushing yards, I think. Stephon Diggs is a beast. Travis Kelce, obviously, you get the edge there. Again, looking at the predictor here, Kyler Murray, 76%, not amazing, but Joe Mixon, Stephon Diggs, Swift, Kelce, Lamb, Jones, all those guys are going to be gone before our next pick. Quarterback, but we know the position's pretty deep. We already have Justin Herbert. I'm with you. Let's go with a running back or a wide receiver. I like Mixon. You like Swift. I made the pick with Herbert, so I'm good to go Swift if you'd like to.
Let's do it.
Final answer, my man?
Swift.
Done.
So I think you got to start looking at the draft board here. Obviously, if this was let's say, for example, this draft wizard is it seems like it's a more balanced. It's not as QB heavy as you would automatically assume. So we have seen some balance. Like even after we took Swift, only Kyler Murray went, ironically. So like there's all these running backs. So we made the right decision because there was a running back run instead of a quarterback run. So in this scenario now, I feel just as confident. I don't know if I feel like I need to pull the trigger on Trey Lance here, but I think Trey Lance might be one of those quarterbacks, and even a super flex, you might be able to get a little layer, like similar to a regular single QB draft. So honestly, I personally wouldn't mind. Like Tom Brady's going to throw a bunch, but with a lot of Godwin's injury, Mike Evans now with the hamstring, Julio Jones still getting acclimated, and no Gronk. I don't know if I'm willing. I'd need to jump up and take him. I'd rather wait maybe another round on a guy like Trey Lance. for example. So it really comes down to what's the wide receiver situation here and the tight end. Like, let's look through it all. Like Mike Evans being, everyone I think at this point knows we're obsessed with Mike Evans. Even with the hamstring, he should be okay by then.
Sorry.
And then really when it comes down to it, it's just looking at, I think right now it's a tier break. It would be Mike Evans for me as the wide receivers easily for me here. Running back wise, I think there was a pretty big run, so it might not make sense to take a running back here. What about the tight ends? Is Andrews or somebody still available? Yeah, Mark Andrews is still here too. So I actually wouldn't mind Mark Andrews, but at the same time, in a super flex league, we're not going to go quarterback. My pick, James Conner's my pick, obviously. But James Conner, Mike Evans, or Mark Andrews. What do you think, Sky?
I'm kind of feeling Mike Evans personally. Is it too early for Keenan Allen to get that stack with the Chargers? Or you want to try to get Mike Williams later?
Mike Williams later.
Okay. So then, I mean, for me, it's going to be Andrews. I actually have George Kittle as my number 2 tight end right now. So ahead of Mark Andrews a little bit. So we went James Conner last time. So let's just not pick him just to spice it up a little bit. We also went with Evans, I believe. So you know what? Let's go. We went quarterback early, tight end early. Let's see. I also like T. Higgins here. Ooh. Tough. I'm going to do it, though. I'm okay with it. Let's go with Mark Andrews.
Okay.
Solidify that position. All right, we're in good shape. Let's go back around. Trey Lance did get picked.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
So now we know.
Yeah.
Listen, I think a lot of times in mock drafts too, we should look at players that we normally wouldn't take, so we could see where the guys that we like usually see how far they fall. Like I'm a big James Conner guy, but I should probably not take him in mocks because I want to see how far he could fall. Like has he even gone yet? It's the 4th round.
Still available. He's still
exactly.
Available.
So yeah, and that's obsessed. That to me is a slam dunk, no brainer in the 4th round. That's a guy that I would start considering in probably the 3rd round. So that's just like a good habit to get into these mock drafts as well.
Man, T. Higgins went 1 pick before us. That would have been mine. So these quarterbacks, man, again, we had a long break of quarterbacks in about a round and a half of just Kyler Murray, but then Brady goes, then right after that, Wilson, Prescott, Lance, 3 picks in a row there. So, all right, you're with, let's see, who's the quarterbacks right now? Stafford, Rodgers, Cousins. Again, there's so many guys that could go off as your number 2. So I'm with you. Let's go with James Conner. Get the board moving here. We'll take a look at our squad here really quick.
You got to read the room too, right? Obviously, like Stafford was probably my only QB option there. I like the continuity on the offense. Allen Robinson's a stud, but you have to remember outside of Cooper Kupp, Allen Robinson, there's really no wide receiver 3 right now in that offense. And the tight end, I mean, Higbee's fine. He's not a terrible player, but at the same time, I'm not overly excited. So I actually think I'm okay that we waited on quarterback there. I think I would have. Trey Lance is probably the only guy in the last 2 rounds that I'm a little upset we didn't get, but at this point, I might even be willing to wait another round on quarterback to see if anybody takes one, and then maybe take 2 back-to-back later, like a Fields mobile quarterback like him and another player.
We have no wide receivers yet. It's round 5.
I think Brees Hall.
Mike Williams here and look for that stack with Herbert. How do you feel about that?
I think Mike Williams and Allen Robinson are my 2. The guys I see on the screen are the 2 ones I like the most. But Brees Hall is a difference maker for me too. Honestly, I he's in his own tier in this too. But for me, I have him as a top 13 running back. I have my RB 13 this season in half in full PPR in my rankings. So I'm big on Brees Hall. But at the same time, we haven't taken I'm not overly stressed out about receivers. They flatline at this point in the draft.
Yeah.
So I'm not overly concerned about it. But I would be okay with Brees Hall, maybe Mitchell, because it's half PPR. And then at the wide receivers position would be Mike Williams and or Allen Robinson.
So again, on the pick predictor here, you have the strength of schedule according to Fantasy Pros as well, the consensus ranking, 5th best strength of schedule as of right now. Of course, a lot of that changes per week, but opening the season 5th best for the Jets there. Improved offensive line, improved offense overall. Probably going to be run heavy again. And Brees Hall was an animal, of course, in college. So, Bob, I'm going to give this one to you. I actually like that pick. I kind of overlooked it a little bit because I was kind of hyper-focused on wide receiver, but I think that's a smart pick. So let's go with Brees Hall here. That gives us 3 starting running backs that more or less should be bell cows, right? So that puts us in a pretty good position. And let's take a look at the draft board, see who went after that. Elijah Mitchell, A.J. Dillon, J.K. Dobbins, Josh Jacobs, Elijah Mitchell. But again, we're 3 running backs deep. We have our quarterback. We have our tight end. I mean, we need a backup quarterback eventually, but everyone else is kind of starting to fade now. Derek Carr, Daniel Jones go. So we're kind of scraping the barrel anyway. We could load up on wide receiver for quite a while here, and I would feel pretty good about it.
Well, let's go back to that screen, though, for a second. This is a key part of the draft where we're at 7. Now look at the left and right sides, because if you start seeing everybody team you left, remember, those teams are going to get 2 picks before our next one. So how many quarterbacks does each of those teams have? Do they have 1? Do they have 2? Because that's where you got to start playing this game a little bit. Because if you start noticing all these teams already have 2 quarterbacks, then they're probably not taking a third one in the 6th round, 7th round. So you could definitely go wide receiver. However, if you see most of those teams either have 1 quarterback or no quarterbacks, you might see a run. So I think it's important around this middle part, the 5th, the 6th, the 7th rounds, to start looking at those breaks. But I honestly, none of the quarterbacks excite me, and Mike Williams is available. So let's just get Mike Williams. We talked about pairing him with Herbert, right? He's already there. Boom, baby. Let's get it done. I love it.
I do too. And again, you wanted to get James Conner earlier. We faded with the knowing that we might lose him, and we were able to get him. Or we passed on him. No, we did get him, didn't we?
We got him in the 4th, but yeah, we passed him in the 3rd. Yeah.
Okay, but we were able to wait an extra round. I wanted Mike Williams last round. He came all the way back around to us, even with this huge wide receiver run. So that just kind of shows you, again, we're checking ADPs here. First wide receivers, Mike Williams, Breece Hall, James Conner, Mark Andrews, DeAndre Swift, and Justin Herbert. I like the team a lot here, man. Lots of upside. We're in about the middle of our draft here. How are we feeling? Another wide receiver you want to take a look?
Well, if you go back
there, Miles Sanders is available.
Yeah, Fields just went 2 picks before that. Which is I actually might be higher than most people on field, just because we're forgetting about the running back cheat code. The running QB cheat code, right? Like, people think that I don't need Fields to be a prolific passer. Terrell Pryor as a quarterback had big games because he could run the ball. But here's the thing, though. This is what I'm talking about. Now, we made the wrong decision here, because if you look at where we're at right now at the 7th round, if you look every team to the right of the screen, most of these teams have 2 quarterbacks already. The only team that doesn't is the QB1 with Jalen Hurts. So realistically, I think only one team's going to take a quarterback here. So unless there's a tier break, let's jump over to the to the picks, so the players. I think it's whatever it is. Go to the section with there we go. See who the quarterbacks are. Is there a one quarterback that we think is a complete difference maker? Now, they have Tua in a separate tier. I don't know if I think Tua is a complete difference maker. But if you keep scrolling down, I mean, is there 2 quarterbacks on this list that we think later are guys that we want to pair? Okay, so who are your 2?
All right, so of all these guys available that you can see, I mean, Deshaun's up in the air, obviously, still, but I just don't see him getting, with them going back and forth, I see him playing at some point. So he would be good. I actually have an affinity to Davis Mills. I know, laugh me out of the room if you'd like to, but I think he's a stud. And then, look, call me a homer. I'm back on it. My boy Marcus Mariota, great. I follow him because I'm a Duck, and I follow all the Atlanta reports. Sounds like he's doing absolutely fantastic. He's familiar with the system already. Drake London's come out of the woodwork. They have Cordell Patterson and Kyle Pitts as well. Marcus is going to be much better than QB 31. I promise you that. Even Mitch Trubisky for a week, and then we could drop him for Baker or Goff or Zack Wilson if they go off later. So I do like a couple late-round quarterbacks here.
So in this situation, I'm thinking in my head, number one, we don't have to take a quarterback here because we don't think any of these guys is a difference maker. I actually think Matt Ryan would be a solid QB2 because he's going to offer you a nice floor.
Even
with the players around him. Yeah, so we're not going to take a quarterback here. We pass. So let's go back to wide receiver because that's where we're the weakest right now. That's where we have the most lack. And so when you're looking at this list right off the top, Brandon Nyuk is getting a bunch of hype right now.
Absolutely.
He's a huge hype. He's a player that, now listen, I like Brandon Nyuk, but if you want to be rational, down the stretch last year, his points per game over the last 5 weeks, he'd been wide receiver 30. Like, he was good, but he was better than his first half. I just don't know if there's enough volume with Lance, Elijah Mitchell running the football. Now, Gabriel Davis, number 2 receiver for Josh Allen, always good. Elijah Moore, it sounds like he might be the one. Amon-Ra St. Brown is quietly one of the most efficient rookie seasons ever. And, he's with a quarterback who targets the middle of the field more than anybody. And my personal sleeper, the one I like the most, Adam Thielen, because
let's go.
Adam Thielen last year was a top 20 wide receiver on points per game, and no one wants him.
10 touchdowns.
I know, no one wants him. Yeah, because his efficiency's going down. But this is the thing, though. They've already talked about Adam Thielen being is featured in the red zone because of the way he operates down there with Kirk Cousins. So this guy's a threat for double-digit touchdowns. But I don't even think we need to take Thielen. We could take a guy like Elijah Moore or Amon-Ra St. Brown or Brandon Ayuk instead. But I'll leave it up to you for this one.
Okay, man, I'm going to take one more look at the pick predictor because after these rounds, it doesn't really matter after a while. But look, Tua is going to go off the board if we don't take him. We already have a tight end, Matt Ryan, and we talked about Ryan Tannehill, so more quarterbacks are going to go. But Gabe Davis is probably going to be off the board. Elijah Moore, who you had mentioned, Amon-Ra St. Brown, 76%. We keep going down the list, man. Some of these other guys we mentioned aren't even on this pick predictor, so they'll probably be around. So I think we should focus on somebody on this list here, Gabriel Davis maybe, even Miles Sanders, Tua if you're feeling it. Elijah Moore, Amon-Ra St. Brown, somebody like that, maybe before Adam Thielen, because I think we might be able to get him next round. One, two, three, four, five, six. Everybody's got two quarterbacks on this side too. I think you're on mute.
Anyway, well, I just said a bunch of great stuff for football.
So each team here has two quarterbacks as well, except for Jalen Hurts, as you had mentioned.
Yeah, so I think this is the problem, right? If we're going to pull the trigger on a quarterback next, it'll be next round because we know going to the left, all those other teams, there might be more of an option for teams to take second QBs. Now, this is my thing. We don't find it. There's not a quarterback that stands out. Thielen, we think we can wait on. So really, it comes down to who's a wide receiver. In my opinion, who's the wide receiver 2 that we like the most here? Is it Elijah Moore? It's a half PPR. So, and listen, Amon-Ra St. Brown, for what it's worth, has a lot more target competition with DJ Chark and also Jameson Williams there than he did last year. It's Jared Goff still, folks. It's as much as we want.
I think it's Gabe Davis easy for me.
All right, let's do it. I like the upside.
Me too. And again, shined in the playoffs. Josh Allen trusts him. He's the number 2 in that wide receiver core. I like that a lot. All right, let's take a look here at the draft board. Tua did go, which we expected.
Oh, Thielen went, you bastards.
Yeah. There we go. He did go. Terrible. Robert Woods, Hunter Renfro, but Brandon Ayuk is still available. I think again in the 8th round, I think we're starting to throw darts anyway. He's got big time upside. I think that's a good grab there.
Yeah, I mean, well, let's go. Yeah, I think at this point though we have to look at the quarterback situation. Is there a difference maker that we really want to wait on? I think Matt Ryan's the only guy at the top that I would think. I think he's going to be a nice high floor player. But Matt Ryan struggled in the first year of schemes. He's shown that every year of his career. I mean, last year he did not have a good fantasy season. I was one of the very few people. I was actually one of the people that said stay away from Matt Ryan because every time he changes offenses, he's not good for fantasy. So let's just skip quarterback. We're punting it, baby. Let's punt it. Let's go Brandon Ayuk. Come on, let's get after. I like.
I feel like we're gonna go back-to-back rounds here with quarterback here pretty soon.
Yeah, probably. But I mean, at this point too, I'm a big Devin Singletary guy. I do like the fact that he's on that offense. Kareem Hunt is always solid.
I lost you. 1 second.
Yeah, but anyway, my point is, I think at this part of the draft, we feel we have a very strong, solid running back. I think Brandon Ayuk's the way to go.
Oh yeah, give me 1 second here. I had a little. Just 1 second, folks. Sorry about that. Hold on.
I honestly think at this point, I know
you can't hear me. Check.
I can hear you. You're good to go. But I mean, the people are going to be watching this wondering, is this guy ever going to get his headphones fixed? And I'm just going to be sitting here. So I figured myself.
It's fixed.
All right, cool.
Keep yelling. Yeah, okay.
Allen Lazard, by the way, is the guy that I love. I don't want to leave any draft without Allen Lazard. Honestly, I think he's a no-brainer here. I think at this point too, how many are we that concerned about the quarterback?
Receiver
how many teams have 2 QBs? Do we know?
Probably all of them at this point. 1, 2. This one doesn't. Yeah. Golden Grams, the Plot Pickens, Deshaun Watson went off the board.
So
everybody else does.
I think we should take Lazard, and then on the way back, we should take our next quarterback.
I'm with you.
There's 2 quarterback teams there. Yeah. So Lazard's probably the guy that I should probably stop taking Lazard in mocks because I need to see where he goes because I need to know where I got to pull the trigger.
Because you're just rigging the system every time.
Yeah, I need to stop taking Lazard. Him and James Conner, I need to just stop taking because I'll never know when I should actually pull the trigger on them. Because
so Taysom Hill went, so that helps our algorithm. Appreciate that. Matt Ryan did go though, man. So we're probably looking at maybe back-to-back QBs at this point. We've got 1, 2, 3 running backs. We have Justin Herbert. Matt Ryan went over here. And then we have 4 wide receivers. So we're looking pretty good at wide receiver and running back. We have our tight end. So I think we're in like maybe back-to-back quarterback mode unless we see just somebody that's an outlier at some other position. So let's go with 1 quarterback for sure, just to make sure. Again, I like Marcus as a super late pick. I just think he's going to crush 31. If he gives you 14 games, he's going to be a top, probably 16 quarterback at least with rushing upside that people forget about. So I'm good with him later as well. Are you feeling anybody above him though?
You know what the thing is? Quarterbacks score in Superflex league. People don't want to hear this, but quarterbacks score. The mediocre quarterbacks score more than like the top 12 wide receivers do. So
it evens out tremendously. I agree.
Yeah. So like I honestly don't even know. So let's just talk through the top 3 or 4 players. So Jameis Winston has a ridiculous trio of wide receivers now to go along with Alvin Kamara in the backfield. And the problem I have with Jameis though is why were they so conservative last year with him? They did not throw a lot. He had 2 really monster games, and in the other games he threw like 180 yards and a touchdown. So if this is a best ball format, Jameis offers you those big blow-up weeks. I like that. Ryan Tannehill, look, Traylon Burks is coming on, and you love Robert Woods. Austin Hooper's better than any tight end he had last year. So he's got a solid return, and he's also one of these odd guys that does run a decent amount that you don't think about. Mac Jones has everything now. I mean, he doesn't have an offensive play caller, but he has everything on the field, meaning like he has the Parker, but he also has another year of Jacoby Myers. He has another year of Kendrick Bourne and Nelson Aguilar. He has the 2 tight ends. He also has, Ramondre and Damian Harris, but this is another relatively conservative offense. Now the question comes, Zack Wilson, young second-year quarterback, good scheme, but it's a Shanahan type scheme, right? So do those guys ever typically go off? No, but at the same time, they are extremely efficient. He's got a trio of wide receivers. He's got, 2 solid, NFL caliber tight ends. And so in my opinion, when I'm looking at these kind of guys, I'm like, I don't think anybody stands out to me. I almost in this scenario would say, all right, I'm playing chicken with the whole scenario. Like if you're talking Mariota later in drafts, I personally would rather taken like Justin Fields maybe a couple rounds ago and had him as my QB2. But at this time of the draft, I don't. None of these guys I'm overexcited about. I mean, Baker,
Me neither. Let's look at these other positions too, because I mean here's where you got to start. Like, okay, we do need a quarterback, but at this point, 90% of those quarterbacks are the same. Jameis has massive upside. We know that. Rushing quarterbacks have massive upside. We know that. There's some difference makers. I mean, Ronald Jones, I think, could have a big bounce back season with CEH kind of on the bubble there. A little early maybe for Madison, but we know how that can go. And then some of these guys down the way here. Look at a wide receiver again, maybe for one more. Drake London, I think, is going to.
Yeah, these are
Seattle's quarterback. I think it's going to be abysmal. Tyler Lockett's Tyler Lockett, dude. Christian Kirk got to be the number 1. Traylon Burks was talked about. Your boy Kadarius, which I can't seem to do it, but I know you're excited about him. Russell Gage is down here. I mean, there's a lot of quality wide receivers still too.
The one guy that stood out that's been getting some good noise is Pierce, the running back for the Texans. That he's still available.
That's my boy.
And
I called him out a long time ago.
He's the only guy on that list that is a clear path to a starting role. The receivers, there's actually more than I thought that I like. So I wouldn't mind taking Pierce here and then seeing which of those receivers comes back to us taking them. And then maybe we just try to take maybe we leave this draft with 2 mediocre type quarterbacks, but we just take a bunch of flyers. We just take a bunch of flyers at the end. How many more picks do we have, by the way?
We got I think a handful. 1, 2. Oh, we just got 3 because we have a short bench. So we need to do a quarterback. We got to do this for the show. I mean, we got to be smart about this. So let's pick a quarterback here to make sure we get somebody. I like Jameis. I think he's got the biggest upside. He's got the best weapons. He's familiar with the system. The system's familiar with him. He was kind of hurt last year. They had nobody to throw it to.
Yeah.
Kamara had, season highs all over the place because he was the only guy there. Jameis is the pick for me.
Still,
okay. And I know that Fantasy Pros doesn't like that with the percentage because we can get
it's a zero. There's a fat zero on there.
Well, just because we have limited picks because of the show we're running here, I want to make sure that we do that correctly. So we might even like Marcus maybe here or last just to make sure we have that sub, and then we can pick a flyer on some late round somebody. Now again, in a normal draft, we would have 5 more picks.
Well, only one other quarterback went there. So really, I think in this scenario, let's just wait. Only one quarterback went, and it was like all running backs here. And I think there's probably still stud receivers available. I mean, Dameon Pierce. I mean, God, this. If this was real, which it's not. I mean, obviously, people would take these guys probably sooner.
These are 3 number ones, 4 number ones.
I think
maybe 5.
I think Gage too. In that, I honestly think all these guys should be. I think London, Kirk, Burks, Gage, I would take all of them right now. So any of those guys I'd be cool with. Lockett to me, I'm not overly excited about. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Geno Smith and a conservative offense. I'm not going to buy.
Yeah. How do you feel about Christian Kirk? I really like Trevor Lawrence this year.
We could do a London Mariota stack, my friend.
That's what I want to do. That's what I'm going to do because we're getting low on the episode. Let's do it. We picked Christian Kirk last time too. So if you want to hear our thoughts on Christian Kirk, please feel free.
Oh, he fell, did he? We got him?
The draft board. Mariota? We got one more pick. And if Mariota got picked, then we're going to start this whole show over again.
It's over. No, he's still there. No one took quarterbacks late because of the draft and how short it was. No one took quarterbacks late. So
this is a little bit skewed. It is a little bit skewed because of the way that we're drafting here. But we're trying to pick 3 quarterbacks because it's what you have to do.
But there's a lesson to be learned here. If this was the case, really good wide receivers got pushed. So instead of maybe taking some of those mid-round receivers that we took, we take a Justin Fields and a Deshaun Watson in those middle rounds, and we take Russell Gage, Treylon Burks, Drake London in the later rounds because we feel more comfortable with them as our wide receiver 2/3. And we now have Deshaun Watson and Justin Fields or Deshaun Watson, whoever we like in the middle rounds instead. So this is a good lesson to learn from this draft. Now, B- ain't bad. We took a 0 at one point, so B- isn't too bad.
So I'm telling you. And first of all, the score is fun. Last time, what did we get? We had like a 96 or something ridiculous, right? So like, I'm telling you right now, because it's based on algorithm, we did not pick a second quarterback until way too late, according to I promise you, if we took Carson Wentz in like the 4th round or whatever, we would have spiked to an A just because we had a second quarterback. But that being said, I like our team a lot. I like Jameis as a backup. I like Mariota to flip-flop them to see how they go. I like both of them with potential. Obviously, I think Justin Herbert's a league winner by himself, possibly NFL MVP. We got your boy Swift. We got Connor. We have Breece Hall. We also have great Gabe Davis, Brandon Nyuk, Drake London, Allen Lazard. All those guys are potentially number 1s with the exception of Gabe Davis there. And Brandon Nyuk might be a 1B this year to Deebo Samuel. Who knows? Breece Hall, I think, has big potential. Obviously, Mark Andrews is a separator. As a team overall, we threw off some picks at the end, which hurt our grade here because we only did 12 rounds because of the show. We would have had about 17 in a normal draft, and things would have fallen differently. We would have picked a quarterback maybe earlier, but as a squad that we chose here and why we did it, I actually really like this team.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I noticed over the last 2 mocks, we picked tight ends early in both, and I don't usually do that. I'll admit that Dalton Schultz I saw on the board in like the 6th round, and I'm thinking to myself, man, I'd rather have Schultz in the 6th than Mark Andrews in the 3rd, easily, in my opinion. I don't think that – I think there's going to be a huge vacuum of targets outside of the Baltimore Ravens. Like, I know Marquise Hollywood-Brown's gone, but they threw the ball so much last year. That's not going to happen again. So I think Andrews is a solid pick. But I just think the value you're going to get for Schultz and those kind of guys, it's just, it makes it tough for me. I think that's the one thing I probably would have flipped personally. But overall, I think really when it comes down to it, we need to see some preseason games to see how some of these late round guys go. Jameis Winston, Ryan Tannehill, Matt Ryan, these quarterbacks in the preseason, see who's humming a little bit. Because I just think, in my opinion, those middle rounds, you can get some serious wide receivers. And even late, I mean, freaking Russell Gage and Treylon Burks weren't even like picked in this draft. So I think that, in my opinion, I might have taken some quarterbacks mid rounds and waited on receiver. I think receiver might get pushed late. You might get some really good value in Superflex on wide receiver.
Absolutely. Wide receiver. I just pulled up tight ends too. I mean, Cole Kmet is in here, Mike Gesicki, Irv Smith, Albert O. A lot of these guys can, Gerald Everett, who I love, might be a top 12 guy. Austin Hooper, you mentioned. Logan Thomas.
He's more of a second half. He's more of a
CJ Uzomah crushed it for the Bengals last year. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, again, you're right, man. And this one, Superflex is kind of tough. Maybe we should have, next time we do this, we might just have to bite the bullet, do a full long, because it's a bit skewed doing a Superflex draft, trying to hustle through like we are for sake of the show, because it's just drafted differently than redraft with all these extra quarterbacks. But I'm telling you right now, folks, Zack Wilson, Carson Wentz, Jared Goff, all of these guys, with the exception of maybe Drew Lock, will be drafted. Drafted in the next draft. Jimmy Garoppolo is probably going to get drafted eventually because he'll go to Seattle. Kenny Pickett will be on somebody's bench. Those kind of guys, there's no waiver wire at quarterback in Superflex leagues. That's another thing that I want to make sure is known for anybody new to Superflex. It's very hard to find in Superflex leagues. They just don't happen because every roster has 3-4 guys. So it eats up the pool of quarterbacks very quickly.
All right, man. Listen, that was another episode. That's another mock draft Monday, folks. This time it was a Superflex Half-PPR. Honestly, we'll be probably doing these for the most part. I think we're going to start doing a lot more sleepers, breakouts, busts. We're going to get you the juicy stuff in the next couple of weeks. But these mock drafts are important, so we'll bring them back pretty much all through August. But we got draft season. We're drafting right now. Me and Sky in the Razzball. Super excited there. But once again, this is the Razzball Fantasy Football Podcast on the Razzball Fantasy YouTube channel. Make sure you're following us there on YouTube, but also check us out on IG and TikTok at Razzball Fantasy. And of course, make sure you go to razzball.com for all your content needs. Once again, I'm your host, Bobby Marco. You can find me at Bobby LaMarco on Twitter, and that man is Sky Gawasco. You can find him at Sky Gawasco as well. Thank you for joining. We're out of here.